Welcome to the reality check. Yes, it's the December 25th, 2018 Christmas show. Merry Christmas to all. Word to the wise, to all the children of the 20th, 21st century. Whether their concern be pediatrics or geriatrics, whether they crawl on hands and knees and wear diapers, or walk with a cane and comb their beards. There's a wondrous magic to Christmas, and there's a special power reserved for little people. In short, there's nothing more mightier than the meek. And a Merry Christmas to each and all. And that's what we have as a premise for the show. Christmas, 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 Christmas. And hopefully you're not all Christmased out. We'll definitely talk about many other topics besides, of course, Christmas. What can we talk about? Well, let's start out with the wall, of course. I mean, we know the Democrats don't care about the security of people, whether you agree with how much or whatnot. These people, it's amazing. In 2013, they all voted for tons of border security, miles of fencing. Now, all of a sudden, they don't support anything. So they voted when they knew it wasn't going to be enacted, pretty much, in short. But, it's okay. I mean, think about it. The government spends how much money a year to have sound walls, and I know they're very prominent here in Arizona, to have sound walls along our highways to protect nearby homeowners from traffic sounds, which is ridiculous. Firstly, if you bought a house near a highway, what would you expect? That being said, is we can spend billions of dollars on that every year, but we can't spend it on our wall to cover our border, right? To protect our border. Yeah, doesn't make sense, right? Well, what else can we say about it? Is it a joke or is it reality? Trump's going to keep this thing shut down, hopefully, till we get a wall. And it's not, you keep on people saying Trump's wall. Trump says, no, it's everybody's wall. Everybody's. That's what it's all about. It's everybody's wall. We all want it. You see how much funding it's getting, right? They don't want a border wall, right? They don't want a border wall. They don't want our military even protecting our country. But now they're mad at Trump for trying to pull out of Syria. Makes no sense, right? Oh, it's okay to protect Syria's border and not ours? Nope. Sorry, President Trump, veto the bill unless the wall is properly funded. No excuses, no delays. Shut it down. Build the wall. Let's slow down the illegal immigration. It's just that simple. And it makes sense. It just makes sense. Makes sense, especially on Christmas, right? All about families and whatnot. That's what it is. So the border, the wall. And of course, we'll definitely get back to the wall and the border and stuff. We have to go over, of course, the UFC 232 preview. The big news on that, of course, venue change. Went from Vegas to Cali, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about all the news, from coast to coast, around the world, around whatever. But obviously, Christmas and the wall, big topics, of course. It is what it is, right? And you think about we should do some year review stuff next week, but it's so hard. You have to back high week. It's like New Year. We've got to figure out a good day to do the show to get all the information we can before the year ends. But you think about the media this year and what clowns they've been, right? I mean, we know every day the normal Trump bashing and then saying stuff that isn't true, and either they don't say anything about how wrong it was, or you hear it 3 days later and oops, yeah, my mistake. Or we thought it was going to be true, so it's true, right? You had the media phoning all over Beto O'Rourke, this year. He's the best. He's the Obama. He's making people pass out. He's making the women hot and heavy. And the guy lost. That's it. He's so great he can win an election. How about, remember during the Olympics, as that was in the beginning of the year, you had the Olympics and the media was going crazy over, Kim Jong-un's younger sister. They were pretty much just so happy that she was there and so excited. And she's stealing the show at the Olympics. Why? She's so much smarter and better than Trump. And just making a fool of themselves. It's crazy. And then they had CNN, remember they went after some Facebook user, some old lady, right? Who shared a meme that was originally posted by a Russian troll farm. They tracked her down, saying that grandma was an unsuspecting agent of a foreign government. Funny, but the irony of it was the woman's crime, right? As they say. She did what CNN itself had done when they promoted an event that was organized by the Russian troll farm, right? They reported after Trump, remember, had won the election. CNN was so happy they were at this anti-Trump love rally in New York. One that Robert Mueller reported that was organized by Russians. Good job, CNN. Except you forgot to harass yourselves on that, right? You had the media falling in love, and now they're silent on Michael Avenatti. He was the man who was taking Trump down, the lawyer of the year, the decade, the century, doing all the work. Sorry, there's a fly in here, and it likes me now. But speaking of flies, it's like Michael Avenatti. It's a fly that won't go away. I'm sure, even though he's slowed down because he's in big trouble, we'll hear more from him. We had, of course, the Kavanaugh story, and how many people they had on the TV saying Kavanaugh harassed this girl at a party, this girl almost at a party. Yes, I might kill a fly on national TV 7 feet after me. But I didn't. I missed. So it's amazing you had the Destroy Kavanaugh. You had the Ramirez account in the room. You had this, that, and it's obviously an embarrassment. No facts yet to this day on any of that stuff being real. Sorry. You can say it was a great story, but that's all it was. You had media jumping in garbages, right? Trying to look for stuff at these Russian troll farms, the 13 that were indicted, right? But yet, no clues in the garbage. Sorry, media. And remember, CNN went across seas to talk to a prostitute who had dirt on Trump. I wonder whatever happened to that. Did she get a follow-up interview? So they flew across the world, was it like Thailand, to interview the prostitute, already classic TV, and the prostitute who had dirt on Trump. And I think they thought they were getting the national, here it is, the big bombshell. And this chick had nothing to say. Yeah, well, yeah, I can't say anything now. It's okay. They had, throughout the year, you had stories like this where Michael Cohen told Robert Mueller this and that, and at the end of the day, Cohen had nothing. Because if he did, he wouldn't have testified yet, right? They had Michael Cohen's calls were being monitored. It wasn't a true story. Obviously, every time Michael Avenatti opened his mouth, wasn't a true story. From Kavanaugh to Trump, wasn't a true story. What do you expect from these people, right? Then you had the media talking about the rhetoric was getting out of control. How it need to be toned down as they're toning it up. Then, of course, they had the breaking story. Brett Kavanaugh may have once thrown ice. I mean, you open up the month of October with the October surprise. Brett Kavanaugh might have thrown ice on somebody. Seriously. Brett Kavanaugh saw a fight at a hockey game. Oh no. Unbelievable. Then you had, was it middle of the year where Trump said, shit, whole countries. And here's the media one crazy, saying the word constantly and over and over and over. Everything that curse there. It's not the first time they've done that. There have been other things Trump said, and if it's a curse they can use, they constantly. I can't believe Trump used blank and blank and blank and blank, 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 blank. And that's what you get. Especially CNN, they love that. They are so excited, right? Love it. We had good old Don Lemon doing the year right, of course, where he said, why is there not a white guy banned? The biggest terrorist threat to this country is the white guy. Just, and of course the insulting of Trump voters all year long by the media. They're all racist, or they regret they voted for them, yada, 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 yada. That was pretty much the media. Media, no different than the year before. Nothing's changed, nothing's learned. I actually think Obama was good. Ha, 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 ha. Not at all. And the slide's getting quite aggressive. Was he an Obama voter? I don't know. He could have been. What else do we have new? What they say, the same criminals on the left who wrote the Russian interference, the same fools who ran the Russian smear campaign against Roy Moore, which we found out the other week there was one, and Roy Moore was right. It's okay. Is he going to get a chance to run? No. Is he getting whatever. You have judges in London that refuse to give minimum sentences out. I mean, it's unbelievable. A judge decides that the mandatory minimum sentence for, degenerates who sold underage girls, it would be cruel and unusual. Speaking of cruel and unusual, we had the good old Teamsters Union taking all of a worker's check but the last $15. So you basically have somebody who's a temporary, holiday employee, fighting every day to make money, working tons of hours, and here it is. During Christmas time, you're trying to save up, maybe work an extra job in somebody's case, and You're waiting to get that paycheck, then you find out there's nothing to it because the union took out almost all the money. You open up your paycheck for your seasonal UPS job and you're shocked. You work 41 hours and what do you get? $14. You think it's a mistake? Nope. So you're going to pay the union $500 initiation fee, which is ridiculous and should be illegal in general. If they want to collect that stuff, it should have nothing to do with your paycheck. If workers want to pay that, that's their business. It should have nothing to do with company paychecks, shouldn't be taken out of company paychecks. That's all ridiculous. So, that being said, the fees are supposed to be in weekly installments of $32. And now you see that the union reversed their long-standing practice by rescinding the policy. So instead of paying your $32 in weekly installments, they'll just take your whole $500. By the way, not telling you that. Good to know, right? You're part of the union now, though. How sweet. Awesome. And of course, they've somewhat backed off on the policy, but of course, all the people there already swiped their money from. Sorry, peeps. You're out of luck. You get nothing. Yeah, we had a San Francisco mayor that lied. Not anything shocking. But London Breed testified that she saw her brother sleeping on her grandma's couch the night he robbed a burger joint at gunpoint and then pushed his girlfriend out of the car in the Golden Gate Bridge, where she was fatally struck by somebody else who was a drunken driver. So it was a vague time frame. She said she saw her brother on the night of the crime. I just knew it was in the evening. It was late in the evening, so I don't know exactly what time it was. So that was 13 years ago. Now she became mayor. So she testified as an ally, the alibi, an ally. Yeah, of course, it's an ally, it's a brother, but an alibi witness in her brother's murder trial. And she asked the outgoing Governor Jerry Brown to commute her brother's sentence for the crime. So her brother spent almost 2 decades after being convicted of murder and other charges in the death of, his girlfriend at the time. He was granted a new trial, and he pled no contest to manslaughter, armed robbery, and other charges. He was sentenced to 42 years in state prison. So they're saying that the mayor didn't violate any law in petitioning for the governor to reduce her brother's sentence. And she's, of course, defended her actions since it's become public, saying her brother deserves the opportunity to rejoin society. Well, I think people can say conflict of interest, all that stuff. Like, firstly, yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that because, pretty much you're a mayor, he's a governor, when you guys work together and whatnot. So that way it should be a conflict of interest. And, the excuse that your brother deserves a chance to rejoin society. Well, what about the girl that died at the hands of him? What about the people that were robbed at gunpoint and their life forever changed? Can they rejoin society just that easy? No, chances are they can't. Sorry. Just poor excuse. Another poor excuse for a criminal to get away with something. You see it all the time, criminals getting away with stuff. Wrong on many accounts there. Sorry. You see transgender wrestler wins second straight Texas girls high school title. How's that working out for you? There's a bunch of porch pirates going on. We saw some videos, obviously. big news about a video that had some fake reactions to it. Then there was one of a Colorado woman chasing down one of these people and shaming them on video. Yeah, I was reading the story. It's pretty funny. It's a good way to get rid of some trash. Put stuff in the box that's trash and tape it up and let them take it. And what else in the news? Dems accused of religious bigotry for questioning Trump court picks. Knights of Columbus ties. Let's see. We have New York Times, of course, pressuring credit card giants to blacklist gun purchases. Yeah. That's unbelievable. What else do we have in the news? Many things. Chinese, Russians listening to phone calls. Who's worse, the Chinese or the Russians? Who's the worst spy, right? Who knows? But that being said, we discussed a while. We discussed all these issues and that. Let's break in the little 232 UFC preview. Now, that's interesting, right? So, for those who don't know, it was originally supposed to be in Las Vegas this coming Saturday. And of course now, not going to be there Saturday. It's going to be in California. So change of venue, of course, and it all had to do with John Jones. Obviously, Dana White came out and said he didn't do anything wrong. But basically, they found the substance in Jones's blood. Everybody knows his history of multiple failed drug tests. But this was something that was found that they say must have been years ago. It's such a small amount. It isn't anything recent. And, of course, that puts up a red flag. So in Nevada, they had a vote to issue his license. And I guess they're pretty much on vacation, so they ain't coming back for that vote. So, went from Vegas to Los Angeles. That was announced this past Saturday. It was just a trace of the metabolite of the oral turinabol. So, the Nevada Athletic Commission announced that it wouldn't grant that license to fight because they couldn't vote on it and get the proper people there. So, but they said they were okay with the UFC going to California if California wants to grant that license. That's fine. Now, so that's pretty much what happened there. And it's time to go. It's time to go. Now, of course, you've seen a lot of fighters are mad at this because, obviously people think Jones is getting away with stuff. And, I mean, it's just, not only are they mad because, one, now you have to pay a lot more taxes in California, but you also have people have to rebook travel plans. You have people who bought tickets and now they're going to stay in Vegas, and sorry. That's kind of the problem. You have fighters that have to do extra travel. You book stuff to train here. It's going to cost them a lot of money, logistics-wise, and, of course, the taxes. So, I mean, that's pretty much what's got a lot of people upset. Financially, it's a big loss for a lot of fighters. So before we get into the card, interesting story. UFC fighter Alex Oliveira suffered minor injuries in his hometown outside of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, when a group of attackers threw a grenade in his direction. So the incident occurred when he left a Christmas Eve celebration with his family to go to a gas station He said that while driving, he saw members of his family involved in an altercation. Then when he got out of his car to see what was going on, protect his family, they threw a grenade in his direction. And so some shrapnel from the grenade got lodged in his leg. And one guy, I guess, came up and pointed a gun in his nephew's face. And that's when people started pushing each other. They had machetes, knives, grenades. They threw a grenade in his direction. So he said that, he had a bandaged leg and it wasn't a significant injury. It wasn't a significant injury, I guess. So crazy. Just craziness in Brazil. But hopefully he'll be all right. Speedy recovery for him. Alex Oliveira is always an exciting fighter to watch. He's one of those guys where you always get your money worth. So, obviously we wish him well. And they didn't really add much else to the story, but hopefully everybody was safe there. So now we have the 232 card, as everyone knows. Different venue. Don't know how much that's going to change anything. It shouldn't, as professionals. They're unhappy, but they put that aside, and it's time to fight. So opening up the card, 145 pounds, you have Chad Mendes, 18-4. And he's going against Alexander Volkanovski, 18-1. So both guys really good records. Interesting enough, you probably know, but Chad Mendes had lost 3 out of his last 5 fights. But he lost to, tremendous fighters. He lost to Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, who he had. He had McGregor hurt, and he just gassed out, and he lost to Frank Edgar. Now, July 14th was his first fight back from a substance suspension. He beat Miles Jury with a round 1 TKO, which is, really impressive, especially for being off that much time. I mean, this guy, definitely a good competitor, tremendous wrestling. Alexander, 5-0 in the UFC. He beat Darren Elkins by decision in his last fight. These guys are the same height. Alexander has a 5.5-inch reach advantage. We know Mendes, the wrestler. Alexander is the striker. I see Mendes physically controlling this fight early. He's going to come out quick, hit hard, get a takedown, and he's going to look good, kind of similar to the Conor McGregor fight. And then, of course, for Mendes, it's kind of the same thing that's going to happen. He's going to start casting out a little. Alexander is going to start coming on. It's a 3-round fight. And I think Alexander finds enough to get a split decision. 3 rounds. Pretty close fight. Like I said, beginning of the fight will be Mendes. And as the fight grows, it'll be Alexander to finish off strong. Next fight is going to be a 205-pound weight class fight. You got Ilir Latifi, 15-5, 7-3 in the UFC. Dude is a big dude, looks like a truck. Against Corey Anderson, 11-4. He's 7-4 in the UFC. So these guys, similar records, similar ups and downs in the UFC. For Latifi, I mean, he is actually a very well-rounded fighter. You look at him and you see the power, but I mean, he's won, about 40% of his fights with a KO. He's won submission about a third of the time, and the rest, which is about 27% of the time, decision. So well-rounded. He can out-decision you. He can sub you. He can put you out. So very well-rounded. Corey Anderson will, though, have a 5.5-inch reach advantage, 3-inch leg reach advantage, so significant length that Latifi is going to have to power through. One thing that's interesting is Latifi does have great takedown defense to stop Corey, which is something that Corey, he gets a lot of decisions. He knocks people out about a third of the time, but mostly he does the decisions. So I think the takedown defense for Latifi is huge, because if Corey gets in trouble, that's what he'll look for, and if Latifi can shut that down, he'll keep the momentum and keep the game plan his way. They have a common opponent, OSP, over St. Preux. Latifi won, and Anderson got KO'd by OSP. I think Latifi is just like too much power, and with that takedown defense, it's gonna make his power even that much more evident. So when Corey goes to that takedown, Latifi stuff it, and like I said, he'll carry his way on there. Anderson's only chances, a long back and forth battle. I see Latifi though, round 2 KO. Next fight is, I think, the most interesting as far as to pick someone in this fight, you'd have to know something. I mean, you have Carlos, the natural born killer Condon, who's 30-12, against Michael Chiesa, who's 14-4. Carlos lost the last 4 fights he's had in a row, and he's definitely not looked the same as he did before he retired. I mean, and he was close to the top of his game when he kind of retired, or didn't really officially retire, but took like a year and a half, 2 years off. He's not looked the same. Yeah, every fight you think he's about to have that breakthrough, and then nothing. So, which Carlos is going to come out, right? I said the post-retirement or the natural-born killer who could beat you in any way and was dangerous anytime in the ring. And we have Michael Chiesa, who's moving up a weight class. He's lost his last 2 bouts. I mean, we know he is a submission specialist. And we know Carlos can win anyway. If you could tell me which way Carlos was going to fight, if it's what he's been doing recently or what he used to do, I'd tell you who'd win easily. Chiesa is a tough opponent. He's definitely not, I don't think he's championship material at all, but he's that gatekeeper, that guy that keeps you honest. And Carlos, he is what he is now. But there's always hope for him, He's been fighting at least a little bit more regularly. And just for hope's sake, I will say Carlos, round 3 KO, where he turns it on late and ends up winning this fight. And I think it'll be pretty decent excitement. Next up, women's fight, co-main event, 145-pound division. So there's 2 champs fighting here. You have Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. Amanda's won. She's coming from 135 pounds. She's the champ there. She's won 7 in a row. Her last loss was 2014 against Kat Zagana. Really impressive. But then you have Cyborg, who's the last fight she lost was the first fight she ever had. And that's her only straight-up loss. When Cyborg hits harder, she has a good takedown defense. Over 90% of the takedown defense. So Nunes does hit hard. She has good reach, but she can usually take someone down if there's trouble or if she's starting to get the momentum her way and finish it off. That won't happen here with Cyborg. Cyborg can stuff that. Cyborg wants this fight. It's kind of like that Ronda Rousey fight was supposed to be. That was going to be for all the marbles, who's the best. And now this is pretty much it with Nunes. If she can take Nunes out, it stops all the questions about her being the best fighter as far as women ever. And of course, I think most people think that now anyway. But this is it. I mean, this would be another champ coming up to fight her. If she can come out and come on early and destroy Nunes, it just cements her legacy and everything. I think Nunes is tough. She can take punches. I think she has a way to keep Cyborg at bay. That being said, I don't think that she's able to do anything that's going to take Cyborg out. She'll have her moment, she'll get her shots, Nunes, but I think Cyborg can stop that takedown at any time. She might take a little damage here or there, but I see Cyborg with a 4th round KO. She's just going to be too much, and as you've seen, even in the Holly Holmes fight, the one weakness you thought Cyborg might have was her gassing, and she didn't. She actually fought pretty strong. So, like I said, Cyborg round 4. And of course, the main event. Another super interesting bout. You have Jon Jones 23-1 against Alexander Gustafsson 18-4. Now, everybody who knows Jones, of course, he's had no contest for drug problems, and his only loss was to Matt Hamill, and that was because he struck him with an illegal elbow. So he's never actually left the octagon and not had his hand raised. But the one guy, and I know Cormier gave him a good run, and there are other guys that have, done well, at least as far as the standard against Jon Jones. But the one guy who was getting the best of Jones and had him in trouble, that one guy was Alexander Gustafsson. And I do think that fight, I know a lot of people disagree, but I think that Jones won that fight against Gustafsson. And it was because near the end of the fight, he just kept on pouring it on, and you could see Gustafsson just couldn't handle that heat near the end. And Jon Jones took that fight from Gustafsson because Gustafsson had it early. And Jon Jones took that fight from him. So, but we're here today. And Jones has a 5.5-inch reach, even though he's actually 1 inch shorter than Alexander. Gustafsson is 3-3 in his last 6 fights, so that's a troubling sign, including that one being the loss to Jon Jones. That was September of 2013, and like I said, the toughest fight of Jon Jones' career. So Jon Jones, we know, finds a way to win. The one thing, though, is this is Jon Jones' longest layoff. He's had them similar times, but this is the longest one, 1 year and 5 months. The last time, I remember, he had that big layoff. That was about 1 year and almost 4 months, maybe 1 year and 3 months. He fought OSP, Ovis St. Preux, and he just did not look good. Of course, he got the win in that fight, but he looked sluggish. He just didn't look like regular Jon Jones. Like I said, he looks slow, not himself. And if that's the way he comes out against Gustafsson, we'll be trouble. But how much can Gustafsson take advantage of that? I think both of these guys will be a shell of what they were at one point, and they'll have their moments. That being said, it will be a super exciting fight. And it'll bring out the best that these guys have fought in a while. It's, like I said, a shell of themselves, but still, these guys will rise to the occasion and have a pretty dynamic fight. I see Jon Jones wins the 5th round, split decision, and pretty much just as close as the first fight was. That's how close it's going to be. It'll probably be Gustafsson early again, and then when does Jon Jones find his rhythm? When is Jon Jones coming back? And how does Jon Jones find a way to win again? When he's in deep waters like he was last time against Gustafsson, Jon Jones finds that way to win. And that's what'll be exciting to see. 2 belts on the line. Of course, the Jon Jones-Gustafsson fight is a bit for the light heavyweight belt because Cormier has given it his up 2 fights, which might be the last fight of his career before he retires. He wants to retire soon. And he's supposed to fight Brock Lesnar for the heavyweight belt. If not, maybe Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight belt. So it ought to be interesting. Yeah, that ought to be great. So that is the UFC 232 preview. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to get back and talk about it. Ought to be fun. I mean, you definitely have a shot at two titles staying, moving. Maybe one moves. Maybe obviously one's going to be moving because it's for the title between Gustafsson and Jones. Just to see Chad Mendes, which Chad Mendes comes out, just to, all the fights are of interest to me in this card. So they're all good fights. It's going to be a good card. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. Nobody doesn't make weight. Hopefully everybody makes weight, and venue change doesn't really stop much, but of course makes smaller paychecks for people, sadly. So now that we're done with the UFC talk, it was interesting. I was reading this story, and it's basically just talking about a lot of times you read interesting stories, and then the articles, the way they're written, ruin the story because it's such a slant to one way. Instead of just giving you the research and information, and wow, that's interesting, they kind of just put their political opinion in it, which is so slanted one way. It's not even like honest, realistic. It just makes it silly. But it was just talking about dollar stores that open up in economically depressed areas, places that have scarce, healthy, and affordable food options, and they get help of local tax incentives. Now, I know that to be true. I've worked for stores that I knew that have received them. Really annoying, I think. If business doesn't want to come to town, then they don't want to come to town. That's people, they have to deal with that. Start their own business, do something. And then they talk about the research, which talks about how much worse it is for people, that dollar stores, fill the need of cash-strapped communities, but to suggest the stores are just a byproduct of economic distress. They might capitalize, but they're really just not helping get better food in there. Obviously cheaper. It's like the community dictates what they want. Most people know nowadays that the 99-cent store isn't any cheaper than any grocery store. And they make it like, if you listen, people, there's no grocery store within 30, 40 miles. That's not the case in most towns. I think part of it is people buy at whatever store is close to their home, because most people hate shopping. It's a pretty unpleasant experience in general. You have out of stocks, you have people not being nice to you, people being in your way. Just, you don't want to waste the time. You're working all the time. And of course they'll say that these communities, it kind of makes them a little poorer having these dollar stores there. It's not, they're not bringing the better foods, and that's because the people don't want to buy the better food. They're saying that these places follow patterns of racial and residential segregation, blah, blah. Now, look, yeah, if you're poorer, then you're going to get the cheapest stuff for you. But also, sometimes when you're poor, it's because you have a lack of a skill level. And in that case, a lot of times you don't eat healthy because, like, if you don't know how to cook very well, well, you're just going to buy the cheapest junk anyway. Or if you don't have the skill to cook, then you just eat the, normal crap. Because they talk about, in general, it takes longer to prepare healthy food. There are things you have to do, things you have to look for, ways you cook it to make it healthy. But if you don't care less, then you're just going to get the cheapest stuff. If you're not cooking it, you just get stuff that's prepackaged and boxed all the time, and that's the way that works. It's not a color thing. It's, it is what it is. That's it. People know in general that they're not any more of a value than 99-cent stores. Sometimes they're just easier to shop. I don't know. So now they're saying some towns are trying to pass laws where they can't have these stores, or they have to be pretty much, limited to a certain amount. After a while, they were all luring these dollar stores to come to town. Now it's like I said, they're trying to do the opposite. They tried that in Vermont. I think, to me, it's just ridiculous. Firstly, if a store wants to come to your town and they buy property, that's it. Who really cares? And it's, well, we don't want it in this town. It doesn't match our values. Okay. If that's the case, it's going to go out of business. I'm going to tell you, any store that opens up in a town that doesn't want them and the people don't want them and nobody goes to their store, they're going to close down. Usually sooner rather than later. Because most businesses are in the business to make money. So to say that, oh, we have a right as a town, really you don't. Somebody buys property, or they're renting out the property. As long as they're not doing anything illegal, it's their business. They should be in business. And if your town doesn't like it, well, then they won't be in business, so who cares? These towns want to force in who they want and dictate and give dollars to who they want to do it. Oh, if they're giving healthy food, we're going to... So you're picking winners and losers. You know what? If people don't want to eat healthy food, they don't want to. That's their business. If they want to eat the healthy food, good. Those stores will, succeed. So it's amazing that in this modern day, you have just nonsense with the government. Again, whenever the government gets involved, forget about it, right? Forget about it. So here was an interesting question, or, I don't know, statement, food for thought here. People talk about QAnon and, the movement. If you don't know what it is, look it up. I don't want to spend like 10 minutes pretty much going into that, but I mean, I read it, it's kind of like almost like the Nostradamus prediction kind of thing, where you say something in general and some people say it means this and some people say it means that. Some of the stuff's on and some of it's not on, and I get it. It could be real. It doesn't have to be real. I don't know. We'll see. It'll play out, but it's something we'll be able to look back on and see, was QAnon, right? Was it real? Was this what it was claiming to be? But you see, it's interesting. I was just reading, like, you never hear any journalists ask Trump about that in person. Isn't that just very interesting? You would think that's something they can exploit really big. So to me, it's got to be something they're nervous about. And did we hear the white privilege story of the week? Yes, there is white privilege. Now, sometimes there's none for me. I never get any, but nor would I want any. I just want to be treated like a human being. But there is some white privilege in the world. Good old David Hogg is going to Harvard with SAT scores of 1270. Now, the average is 1460. So, why is he going to Harvard? Well, of course it's white privilege, don't you know? White privilege. Amazing, right? White privilege strikes again. I don't know. Interesting question that we always have to ask ourselves. And most of the most corrupt politicians and financially wise who gain wealth are of a certain party, the party of the people. But you gotta ask yourself stuff like, you constantly have people making under $200,000 a year, which is nice money, gets you things, and their net worth goes up, though, by multiple millions. every year, even though they're only earning that. God, they must have great spouses. It's so weird when you're in a Senate or Congress how your spouse is just amazing. Amazingly well done. And here's some food for thought for the next debates we have, presidential candidate debates, any of that stuff. No live audience. I mean, the audience is basically just a waste of time, noise anyway. And you get either candidates pandering to them or whoever's the moderator pandering to it. You know, make it more substance, make it more serious, the debates. You know. So let's see, what do we have? Dems appoint DMV director, forced to resign after massive fraudulent vote resignations reported in the motor vehicle program. So they're already admitted there were 25,000. We went over the story. But no follow-up investigation stuff. Now we have the fund raising money for the wall. And money like that has been used before to fund statues and parks and stuff. Privately donated money to fund government projects. So, of course, it's going to be challenged in court by Dems. Now, if it's found out to be real and it can be said that this is really going on the wall, the donations would triple like that easily. I believe that. But you see, people don't understand why people are donating to the wall, and what's important is just to make the point. People don't want their money back. They're not even saying you have to use this money for the wall. They'd like it to be, but people just want to make the point. We want a wall. Not Trump's wall, our wall. It's our wall. And that's what a lot of these people don't get it. We want the wall. That's it. You know, the government's first duty is to protect the people, not run our lives. That's government's main function is to protect. Without protection, we have nothing. Nothing at all. So we want the protection. It's just that simple. You know, like I said, I was talking about the wall, the GoFundMe for the wall. Well over $17 million. Well over $17 million. In what, 9 days? Even Christmas time, people are donating. You know, even Christmas time, people are, you know. Interesting, right? I guess they don't accept donations from famous people that are frauds, like Mickey Mouse or Hitler, unlike the Obama campaign who did. Oh, where's the call out for that? You know, wasn't that a campaign finance violation? So I was saying, you know, I'm really happy they had the prison reform bill, and I'm glad that these people are happy about that. You know, there are some people who shouldn't be in jail, get out of jail. That's great. But what about the people that aren't in jail? They're out, and they should be in jail. You know, Clinton, Holder, Obama, Waters, Comey, Stroke, Page, on and on and on. What about those people? When will they get to jail? We'd like to know. Inquiring minds would like to know. Now, here's a story that disappeared. The Antifa leader who relied on his anonymity to push his radical communism. Now, of course, you have somebody that was hiding under the mask. Didn't want people to know who he was. A violence starter, a violence condoner. So you have this degenerate, and now we finally know who he is. And nobody's breaking down the house and attacking his wife like they did to, you know, Tucker Carlson or other people. Now, but what do you have? You have in New York Comrade de Blasio given police protection on your dime to this guy. The police are watching his house on your dime for this degenerate. He wouldn't protect a war hero like that. De Blasio couldn't care less. He really couldn't. But yet, on your dime, well, that's right, on your dime, it's okay. Yeah, you know. What else can you say? Not much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here on the reality check, the Christmas show of 2018. One more show this year. Maybe we'll do some year in review stuff. It kind of depends on what the news of the week is around the world is. And of course, we will have to do the UFC 232 review. So, a lot of things to go over, a lot of things to talk about. But enjoy the last few minutes of your Christmas, although for some of you guys in other time zones, you're already on to the next day. You're probably snoozing and dreaming about all the Christmas gifts you got. But either way, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, you should enjoy the day. It's fun. And get ready and get revved up for the new year. Think about your resolutions, the friends you have to make, the friends you have to keep, and the ones that aren't friends anymore, shouldn't be, that you gotta get rid of. Stay safe. Thanks for tuning in to Reality Check. Hopefully you enjoyed our Christmas show. Have a great and safe week.